We are starting the most important session on data analytics and how chartered accountants can take the opportunity of being a data analytic leader. And we have among us Rishabh Pugalia. I request Sonu Jain, our secretary, EIRC, to please come forward and give the introductory remarks of Rishabh Pugalia.
Good morning, everybody. So now we are having first technical session wherein we are having amongst us CA Rishabh Pugalia, not from Kolkata, he is from Mumbai. So since Y2K we are moving towards the technology and still we are exploring more and more. Like our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has told that we chartered accountants are not for the filing of income tax return, that you have proved that this is the last day, but you all are here. We are here for carrying the opportunity of chartered accountants for big data analysis. I would request CA Ravi Patwa ji, please come up on the dais and welcome our guest speaker, CA Rishabh Pugalia, with a flower bouquet. Please give a big round of applause for CA Rishabh Pugalia. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to everybody. And good to see good numbers, and we are starting with data right now. So many people, so many numbers. So what I'll do is I'll move the connection. Now, in the same three keyword phrases, we have big data analytics, and let me break it down to three things: data and first question: how big is big? Is the voice audible at the back?
No, we cannot hear you.
Is it now? Alright. So big data analytics, first talk about the word big. How big is big? First question, how big is big? When we listen to this question, how big is big, we think about how big the data in terms of megabytes and gigabytes and petabytes, but then we bring it down to something which can be easily digestible before we get into its usage, its opportunities that come before us. Let me take an example for this company, UPS, United Parcel Service, and the leader in its domain, the world's largest package delivery company. And think about this, all of us, when we send couriers, we take a tracking request number and we often track it, how has it been delivered, what date, what location has it reached, correct? Let me throw some numbers for this particular company. Calcula's population is approximately 15 million. And this company tracks that many number of packages every day. Even more than that, and it's growing. So that is a big data. Now, what are other definitions of big data? Big data is that data which is not traditionally analyzable through the software that you've been using. In fact, Excel, everybody uses Excel, correct? But what are the limitations of Excel? 1 million rows, 10 lakhs, that's what it ends at. Now, for this company, that many number of requests, that many number of data points, if you put that in Excel, it's not going to work. So one thing is the definition of big data, and it comes with certain characteristics. In fact, before I discuss characteristics, let me continue on how it uses. Imagine this company, they launched a scheme called Orion, full form, on-road integrated optimization and navigation. Now what does it do? It has telematic sensor in all the 46,000 vehicles. It captures the fuel tank. It captures the mechanism, how many times the brake has been applied. It also uses the online map capabilities, integrates with the movement of the vehicles, something which Uber does. And through that, has been able to bring down a lot of cost saving, cost cutting. In fact, as per the latest estimates, each daily mile driven per driver, per annum, any savings on that 1 day mile translates into $30 million saving. So imagine if you're spending, let's say, $5 million and getting a saving of $30 million, isn't that worth the ROI? So that's one. Next part, to extend this, few characteristics of the big data before we cannot differentiate between the big data and the pseudo small data. It is characterized by three things, three V's as it is often referred in the industry. One, volume. How big it is. Too much voluminous. I've already shared the numbers with you. Each day the number of transactions or the package that's being transacted is more than the population of Calcutta each day, single company. That's vastness, huge volume. Second, variety. Now, traditionally we are only working with data which has come from ERP, maybe max to max scan documents. But today the data does not only belong to these transactional elements, it also belongs to Twitter handles. These are pictures on Instagram. Those are messages on email. So all these are different forms coming from people and coming from machines put together. We were speaking about machine-to-machine transaction just a little while. So that is also included in the variety of the data that we are actually encountering. So the third, velocity. You and I goes back to sleep during the night, but the input of data never stops. The process is unending, it's always continuous. So when we talk about big data, few elements that is common to all is three V's, and the fact that it cannot be traditionally analyzed through software that we have been using since last 10-15 years. So in short, that is what big data is. Now, before I proceed, some people asked me in the past, what is the definition of big data in terms of gigabyte and petabyte? Well, this statement aptly demonstrates or defines the definition of big data. So there's no single threshold size or speed that quantifies big data. It depends on the technology of the time. Maybe there was a time when we looked at the data, or let's say coming from Tally, and it says, wow, that's so many transactions, 50,000 lines, 1 lakh lines. Today, the technology to store the data, to analyze the data has gone beyond that, multi-fold that. Maybe 5 years down the line, you'll have something even more bigger. Every camera in the city will have a centralized collating node where movement of all cars, all persons can be tracked down. So this is what we said the end part of big data definition. That was all theory, but it's important to set the benchmark before we can take into account how we are going to use this in our example. In fact, I was thinking about, why are we going to invest so much time in big data so far? Take for example, one instance. So, there's one salesman whose typical benchmark is when he calls people to sell his product, whether the sale has been made, whether the sale has not been made. Correct? Yes, no, 0, 1. So it's just two decision making, yes or no. That is how he is tracking his success. But imagine this. When you talk about big data and the benefits, I'm going to give the example of salesman 2. So when he makes the call, his benchmark of success is not saying make the sales or not make the sales. His benchmark of success has been broken down into multiple small factors. One, has the potential customer picked up my call? That's one success. Two, when I made that call, has he listened to me the next 10 seconds? So first 10 seconds, has he hung upon me or is he still listening? So I'm capturing that data. Next 30 seconds, he's saying, okay, has he listened to me the entire sales pitch which I have prepared? That's the next benchmark. That is also being captured. And the next could be, has in return to the response that I provided, he has asked me counter questions more about products and what are the prices. So notice, a single data has been broken down into multiple pieces of data. Now, who do you think will have a better chances of improving his sales in times to come when he looks at the data? The first or the second? Undoubtedly second. Because the first guy, he's not able to pinpoint where he could improve. He just say, I'm not improving, or let's say I made this much of sales. But the second guy, he will say, okay, my first 10 seconds are good, my first 30 seconds are good, I'm able to make the pitch, but somehow I'm not able to get good response from the fourth step wherein this person is supposed to ask me details of the question. And that's where I need to improvise upon. That's why if I can improvise upon, maybe I can quickly convert the non-sales into sales. So that in short is a metaphor, is an analogy which discusses how can we use big data in the simplest of simplest. Now, chartered accountants' role. We are not coders. We are not programmers. The first hindrance, first challenge is we will not be immediately able to compete with people who are supposed to be called data scientists, who have been born and brought up with the entire environment of coding different Python, R language, and talking about different technologies that you may have heard about but have not much awareness about it, called Hadoop, Apache, Spark, etc. Now, our role, on a theoretical level, to begin with, the roadmap will be something like this. First, familiarize yourself. When I say familiarize yourself with this concept, before 10 minutes, what was our definition of big data? Lot of data? Lot of data? But the last 10 minutes, we got a view from the United Parcel Service, and the way the data can be used, our definition of big data is slightly changing, evolving. In the last 10 minutes, think about how much would you gain if you spend 2 hours or 3 hours in learning through various resources. So first things first, familiarize ourselves. Secondly, only if we have the familiarity can we then share that knowledge with our clients or potential clients. Because he or she may be in a business wherein it can benefit from the big data eventually. They will act as a facilitator, the liaison between the big data implementers and the client. Now sometimes we then actually act as a facilitator to implement certain systems, let's say SAP in certain cases. We may not be coders to implement SAP, but we are the functional guys who can map the different laws, the different aspects of pronouncements to the system, and that's a similar role that we will be playing, but that first 2 steps needs to be completed. A subsidiary of the same is implementation support. So same knowledge that we help our clients with when we actually help them implement a project, talking about cost benefit, what cost benefit in practical sense. Now when we talk about big data, in this room as well, who went out, who came in, there could be a sensor there. Which of the lights have been blinked at what point in time? Now all these data must be collected, but wait, collecting has its own expense. So we must be able to pan out which data is financially feasible to be collected and subsequently analyzed. So client would perhaps will not know much of it. The coder that comes to them, the big data analyst guy from the large firm, when they come to them, they will say, please implement A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But you as a facilitator can talk about, you do not need A, B, C. Just need E, F, G, the data to be collected, which will be subsequently analyzed. So that is what I refer to as cost benefit analysis. The framework that are involved and more appropriate to different industries. So logistics will have a different set of factors. This banquet hall, if I talk about big data, it will be a different set of factors. Next. So leaving the coding to the data analysts and the scientists who are programmed in such manners in different programming language. But there's a very pertinent question I must raise. Before leaping to actually benefiting from big data, ask yourself a question. Have we gained expertise in analyzing small data? And I would say, sincerely, it's a slightly rude question. Why? Because unless we are able to utilize our existing capabilities of analyzing small data, what are we talking about? Analyzing big data? Rather than going to standard 10 and just standard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just straight away leapfrogging to standard 10, and that will not help implement it that feasible manner. So what I talk about is small steps that can help us right now immediately and give you a good glimpse. We as a chartered accountants, not being programmers, how can we move ahead? The roadmap. First thing, Excel is something that we use day in, day out. It is obsolete when we talk about data which is larger than 10 lakh, right? So Microsoft has come out with a free add-in in 2010, in 2013, in 2016 version, and that is called Power Pivot. Some of you may have heard about it. How many of you have heard about this term Power Pivot? Okay, notice hardly 5 hands. Don't really know to ask questions. My question was just to know how much of us know about the term Power Pivot. Now Power Pivot, the guy who writes good books on Excel, people generations after generations have follows his book. His name is Bill Jennings, and he's called Mr. Excel on the internet. I was listening to one of his articles on YouTube, and he's saying Power Pivot has been the best thing Microsoft Excel has come out with the last 2 years. So some of you who typed Mr. Excel, you would have seen his article. He is better known as Mr. Excel than his original name, Bill Jelen. Now what happens is, first thing, it is a technique which has been borrowed from the MS Microsoft SQL team, Structured Query Language team. In other words, also part comes from business intelligence. And what they've given is a free add-in which can be installed in Excel 2013-10, and it is a part of Microsoft Stable, so there's no third-party software. Next, first immediate benefit that Power Pivot gives you is it is able to pick up data more than 40, 50, 60 lakhs without additional investment in infrastructure like Hadoop or any other software that you may have heard about. So my proposition is such that whatever is available to us right now, free of cost, let's start that learning and implementation right now. And let me show you a live example how things go when I actually start using Power Pivot. Now, again, the time will not permit me to go into too much detail Power Pivot, but let's see. In fact, I was last time trying to get some sample data which can easily be shared on the screen. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I have a raw data folder wherein there's a folder called sample data dump. Now it's all text file, 20 MB file. 20 MB file, and it has line items more than 10 lakhs. So if you were to analyze this in Excel, one, the problem on system may hang. Two, the number of rows may not allow you to do that. Correct? Now, so when we get this data down, data logs. So if you have any clients who are in the financial service firm, they'll have data logs of all the transactions being done, PPM included. Now we, at our current existing knowledge, how we can leverage that as a step one. Imagine, I go to Excel. Although Excel is a platform, but I'm more interested in the add-in right now called Power Pivot. Now what it asks me to do is, I'll ask you to go to Manage, and open a Power Pivot window. For a lot of us have seen this for the first time. It's a built-in capability in Excel, and let's see what it does. There's something called get external data, so it's asking me where is your data file which has all these log items. So I go to this button called from other sources. From other sources. Now, just run a parallel view of what are the different sources which I pick up. So there are cases which can pick up the data from the server of the company. That's advantage number one. Advantage number two, I can also choose the log files. A log file are files which probably you will find in a lot of industry, telecom included. Every minute, so many calls are being built from a single tower. Different SMS data packs being initiated. The entire data pack transfer being initiated by people who are downloading stuff from the internet. Now, what it then does is text file, okay, let me say next. And basically don't focus on the main button, just focus on the idea that I can browse to a file, a text file rather. There it goes. I'll just make sure the files are all enabled. So there is a format called CSV. A lot of us already know this format CSV from Form 26 years. Now I'm going to pick up the text file right now and let's see what happens. There is a sample data dump. I have more than 10 lakh lines. So it just shows me a preview what kind of data it is. It's just a single column. The idea is to show you what it can do initially. Because had I taken some time to download all the 30, 40 odd columns, it would have probably taken me 4-5 minutes. But at this moment of time, let me say finish. Let's see what it does. I want us to focus on this portion. Because eventually in the next 1 minute, it will import those lines of data and see what happens. It has uploaded 2 million rows of data points. So these are all transaction IDs firstly. Just one column of data just to show you a quick demo. And once I press close, it brings those 2 million rows in that add-in of Power Pivot, which Excel cannot handle in the same worksheet. Now, why would you want to leap to the next technology immediately when you have something right at the fingertips, right in your office? Now, what happens, let's say I want to talk about the last 2 characters of this particular digits transaction, all amount. I want to find a trend whether the people's mentality to hit a transaction of rupees 950 is more than 999. So basically I want to talk about now what pricing may work better for a select genre of product. So your existing knowledge of Excel will then be combined with Power Pivot to make that analysis. So I'm going to do that very basic analysis right now. I'm going to write a simple quick formula which most of us would already be working it. We'll try to extract the last two characters of this particular transaction, just as example sake. So I'm just going to write a formula called right formula. Just extract something from the right hand side, something that's using anyways. So as of now, I just choose this entire cluster. And the advantage of Power Pivot is it takes things as clusters, and that allows us to work with this fast. The same file had I opened in a text file or Excel would have taken me minutes to open the file. Now, so I'm going to extract two characters. It'll take few seconds to populate those answers. You can see the progress bar done. For how many rows? 2 million. Try to do the same thing, the same data in Excel. Even with 10,000, it will show some lag. Now, it's not over here. This is just the intermediary step. Most of us are working with pivot table, right? Now again, pivot table is based on Excel, but now we combine the power of Excel and Power Pivot such that when I look at this information, I'm just going to rename this column as last two digits, last two digit, short form. I'm going to make a pivot table and let's see, analyze this. Out of those 2 million rows, which is the most popular transactions in terms of which transaction is most likely to happen rather than the other one. So what I do is thereafter make a pivot table out of it. Now this is not a new technology. This is something that we already use. So now when I go to pivot table, just ask me to create a pivot table. Let me just wait a second. There it goes. Right. I'll be just activating some settings before I can show you the results based on the 2 million rows. So don't worry about the settings, this is normal generic settings. Now what I see is a very pivot table like structure on the right hand side. Those who have used pivot table will be familiar with this one. Now what it does is, it is going to help you make those analysis and the report based on those 2 million rows. Now once I click on that, let me find out the last two digits. I'm going to click on that. What do you see? These represents those last two digits. The column that you see right now represents those last two digits. Now if I want to count in total out of the 2 million, how many transactions done? Secondly, what is the value of each transaction? Let's see all one by one. So I'm just going to put the value of transaction here. Big number, really big numbers. I will eventually turn that to an instance of count. So 1. Let me just add one more column, and that is going to potentially help me find out how many instances of each transaction. Now, what's this? I'm going to magnify 3 numbers. So when I look at line item 00, what does this indicate? It says your transaction amount, the last two digits were 0. There were 21,000 transactions done. And what is the value of transaction? Now this doesn't make much sense, such a big number. Wouldn't it be good if I can see the percentage? Out of let's say 100% sample pool, maybe 20% or maybe 10% of transactions are happening with 00, possibly. Okay, here I go. Not using shortcut key for the simple reason that it appears very, very fast. So trying to use the normal way. Write value by. Let me see. What does it give? Okay. Let me sort this and let's see what is the available analytics that we come to. It's saying the topmost occurrence is 14. Now, this is just one column of data. Think about 30-50 columns of data if they are correlating. If they are correlating with each other. So it's telling me that The first two transactions, as in the most popular transactions, end with 14 and 1999. Now, if you were in the part of forensics field, this one person would have shown you 5, 3, 2, some extreme values, which may make you believe that maybe if data is not normalized, it would have been purposely changed. And there are separate techniques to locate that, Benford's laws, etc. But the idea is, this is the tool to help you implement this. Now, pause. This was based on the value of transaction. Let me use the singular percentage technique to find amongst how many transactions, which one belongs to 14. So there I go, show value as percentage of column. More or less normalized. Actually, it is giving me a bit of assurance with the fact that the data, had it been manipulated manually, you would have perhaps seen 3%, 2%. So, Ranjit sir was talking about that recently we have replaced, we are going to replace the word with sampling from analytics. And there will not be any sampling. Why? Because earlier we did not have systems to fill this information. We have to choose some samples and then verify and extrapolate our results, that assuming that 5 are good, the remaining 500 will be good. Here you have the entire 500 data. So why would you pick samples if you can analyze the entire? So it also supports that particular fact. Now, the one thing that I want to have a key takeaway is, no, please mention or write this somewhere or memorize this word Power Pivot. It's free of cost. You can go on the internet, download it, Microsoft, start using it. And doesn't require much of your computer space, because I'm going to show you the computer configuration, and let's see, is it something very, very special? So it says 8 GB RAM, 6 to 8 GB RAM is standard. We have 2.2 gigahertz i5, something that everybody's laptop has. So that is the key takeaway. Going back to my presentation. Right. So key takeaway, the entire thing is power pivot. Next part, which is going to be a hard-hitting fact a bit, is although we may not immediately jump to power pivot, next stage, but are we using the existing capabilities to analyze all the small data? I'm going to give you an example in the next 5-6 minutes, and I'll end my discussion with that. Let me take an example, and here it goes. Yeah, let's pull one of the files. There's so many. Here it goes. So I'm taking a case study from a log report. Take a look. Now, for the purpose of time saving, I have taken a sample data, 8,500 lines, but this could be 20 lakh lines, 50 lakh lines. So this log report stores the electricity consumed date-wise, time-wise. Will you be able to analyze this data through any formula technique? Forget about the next level technology from the current Excel power pivot. No. Unless you put those into different columns, right? So one part is power pivot. The next part is existing usage of the available tools to make it happen. So imagine if you had to take this date out and the kilowatt hours out, you would have to use multiple formulas to get that done. However, new technology, and the other term that I would want you to write down is flash fill, immediate. Either write down on your phone, notepad, or memorize, either way. Do not forget this term flash fill. Now see what it does. Kind of capabilities that these Power BI tools have. Imagine, I just take one sample, copy this, and paste it. Okay? If I say Control E, there's a shortcut key of flash fill. What happened just now? Data were very haphazard, right? It just pulled out those values. Don't worry, I have not shown you the button which I have used to make that happen. My point first is to show you that how it is done. So where is typically this flash fill found? It is under data tab, something called flash fill. So you can Google around, there are so many blogs on that. Only thing is you must know what to Google for. Hence flash fill. Now imagine the current status of the date is what? All mixed up. 15th August, all mixed up. Now, few techniques in Excel, which also starts with flash fill, will help you populate all the data in one row. What is the speed? No macros. Normal Excel that resides in your computer. And for 8,500 lines, I've been able to populate some data. I agree it's not fully clean, but it is better than what we were at the arranging stages. So if you're in a forensic audit talking about the power consumption, and you get a data of 2 lakh lines, 3 lakh lines, that's good, you can do it. But what if you get 20 lakhs? So combining Excel capability with Power Pivot will then help you develop insights, which I'm going to show you in the next 3 minutes. And then I'll conclude my session. So as of now, just cleaning this data out, just making sure all the extra elements which are not required are weeded out, some of which include underscore, that everybody knows find and replace. In fact, all the nation got to know what find and replace through this movie called 3 Idiots. Remember Chandu? I think that's how the Excel will be talking times to come. So, just removing all the unnecessary elements like ST, dot, the next one would be ND. So all the dates with the ND and the RD and the TH are taken away. Yeah? Almost there? Okay. Wow. Or on key dates. In one column I got what? All the kilowatt hour consumption. I just need to clean this up a bit. Again, all these tricks are available on the internet. And watch. I just give a heading KWH, I just give a heading date, and I need the instance of whether I'm consuming more electricity on Monday to Friday, or is there a possibility from Saturday Sunday, even though the factory is closed, still the power consumption is on. Wouldn't that be a valid question? Okay, so I get this analytics, which can easily be applied to Power Pivot also, is through a formula which helps me find out which day it is.